My ride today, Pajero is under repair. So today's challenge is getting this C6 running. Sounds like a very common problem right around 5 or 6 months of sitting that they don't start anymore. I've got a few things to look at. Clearly this is getting a lot of humidity by sitting on the grass, particularly on an island next to the ocean. It's especially bad. So obviously the hood traps the humidity underneath and it just creates sort of a sauna hot tub thing, and electronics don't tend to like that very much, and all this aluminum stuff is going to corrode. The interior's pretty decent, no major damage, looks pretty original. So underneath the fuse panel you got your legend there, and I believe it's number 35 or 36 that's the fuel pump relay. I'm going to turn the key on, just see if I feel this click on and off or not. So check inside for corrosion. Those actually look pretty clean, so I'm not sure that's going to be the problem, but we'll see. Okay, so we do have clicking from the relay for fuel. Well, it could be the pump, but I don't think it's the fuel relay. Then I'll dump some fresh fuel into the intake system, give it a crank, and see if it at least fires a little bit. But here's the mass airflow sensor. So I don't think I can bypass that. I think that's going to need to be connected. So I'm probably going to put fuel in here, reconnect this, and then try and start that way, see what happens. Okay, so we've got fresh fuel in the tank, and our fuel pump relay is working at least. So now I'm going to dump fuel in here, put this back on, and then we're going to try and crank it. Just a little small splash in here, just there. A little bit more? Okay, okay. And there we go. A running C6 Corvette. Okay, we clearly have some kind of fuel delivery problem, so it seems like our fuel delivery might be a little bit weak. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that this has the best contact possible. Okay, we put about 14 liters of fresh fuel, high octane. So if there is some old bad fuel in there, maybe that will compensate it. Give it some kick. Okay, okay. Doesn't smell so bad. So now I'm going to try to find where fuel comes up to the engine compartment. I believe this is the fuel line in, and this is recirculating back to the fuel tank. There's supposed to be retaining clips on each of these. It's probably not going to pop off, but those should still have clips on anyway. This is it's called a Schrader valve. It's basically like a bicycle inner tube, any kind of inner tube valve. Obviously I've already tested the valves and some fuel came out. I don't know how much pressure should be generated there. Doesn't seem like a lot. Actually, now that seems kind of dead. That's not a good sign. So now with the wheel off, I'm not hearing any, not hearing or feeling any vibrations or sounds from the fuel tanks. So I'm thinking it's the fuel pump. I have no pressure at the fuel rail up front. And so the next step is to check the fuel pump, I think. The fuel is bad, but it still fires, so I don't think that's causing the problem. Here we are today at Tip Top in Pangla, Bohol. Very good food. So this is the menu today. And we are here fix this. Pretty sure we've got a fuel supply issue. After lunch, I'm gonna check is the fuel pump. So that's the next step. But for now, lunchtime. You come to Pangla and you want good food? Come here. Tip top. Great food. Yum yum. Here we are, another day in beautiful Pangla, Bahal. I spent about 3 hours yesterday doing research on the fuel system, and for whatever reason the fuel pump relay is not triggering. The fuse is good, it's not triggering. There is power here, which makes it all the more confusing. With the ignition key on, this terminal here is hot, and that can be jumped to this terminal, which theoretically should send power to the fuel pump. But I don't think mine's working, so I'm just going to do more direct using this light bulb. And then depending on what I get here, I may go directly from the power terminal here to the fuel pump terminal there and see if I can get any results on the fuel pump. So that's today's attempt, and I'm hoping to be able to drive this afternoon. Okay, so there is power there, and I read on many forums saying that there's only power for 2 seconds and then it turns off again unless you're cranking. But this is staying on. So theoretically, if I put this over here, that should be sending power to the fuel pump. Let me test that one more time. Still on. Okay. Let's see if this thing will start now. Still not hearing any sound from the fuel pump back here. And then I'm going to check each of these terminals and see if there's power coming out of any of them. See if we're even getting power back here to the fuel pump. And if we are, then we have to pull this out, drain the tank and pull out the pump. Okay, off, on. Disconnected that jumper for the fuel pump relay. All right, on. It's on, off. Okay, on again. Let's see, the first gray one here. Okay, so we are getting power to the fuel pump, which means the fuel pump is not turning on. So now we're gonna have to drain the fuel and pull the fuel pump. The good news is we don't have to drop the tank to do it. All right, so my last attempt of desperation here is to test to see if maybe the ground is not strong enough. It's possible that the fuse box is not well grounded, and so that's why the relay is not triggering to supply ground to the fuel pump. So maybe it's getting power but not ground. So I'm just going to go ahead and ground the contact inside of that yellow connector. Let's see, gray here was the power. Wish they would use red and orange and stuff like they used to. Okay, so now we've got good ground and we have power. So now I'm going to ground the ground side of this thing here, this connector. Just jam that in there, hopefully it makes contact on the ground there. Now I'm going to jam this into the power side. Nothing. Still have power there? Yes, we do. Still have power. Nothing. Okay. Well, that's going to confirm it. Okay. Well, that's a fuel pump hole. Try and pull this pan down a bit. I guess you don't have to take it all the way off. Just take the rear 3 bolts down, and that should lower enough to pull the pump. That'll move out of the way enough to pull that pump out. Tank's empty. Now I've got some weird stuff going on here. I'm gonna try to post in some forums about this. There's 1 and 2 bolts here, or screws, I don't know what they are. How I'm gonna get this off to check the fuel pump with those stupid things. So I gotta figure this one out. A little ray of hope here, brought by a guy named Goose on the CorvetteForum.com site. Senior member, I think it's either Goose or Mongoose. Saved the day on this job. I was about to pull the tank and try to drill, or thinking I was going to have to drill those out. But those are shear bolts, and for some reason, 2 are remaining and 4 have been converted to regular screws. So I'm just going to stick an 8mm wrench on there and try to loosen those. So thanks very, very much to Goose of CorvetteForum.com. Now with a little prayer, let's see if these will come out. Oh my gosh, it turns easy too. Oh. Same. Wow. Thank God. And there it is, it's loose. Oh my gosh. Well, that explains why the fuel gauge doesn't work. That thing's been pieced together with zip ties. Okay. There we are, we got our fuel pump out. Well, I don't even know how they made that work. Looks like somehow that was zip tied on there. Now, how did they do that? Okay, well, I'm gonna have to study up on that. So, and wow, that's got electrical tape on there. I'm not sure that's factory GM. I'm not a Corvette specialist. I have experience in Porsche and older American cars, but first time working on a Corvette. This has obviously been backyard fixed many times, and it's just falling apart in my hands. And then also I noticed that the wires for the, sorry about the camera, random electrical connector inside the fuel tank with black electrical tape around some, okay, so that does go to the pump there. Oh my goodness. Alright, well, I'm going to see if I can at least get some noise out of that fuel pump, jump those wires there and see if I can get a burr noise. Also, I noticed that the filter sock is missing, so that might still be inside the tank, and I'm going to look for that too. This is how they do things here in the Philippines sometimes. I don't think you could have more corrosion than that. There's the terminals that it plugs onto. They're equally corroded. Looks like it's been in the bottom of the ocean for 20 years. I think these were connected to the fuel level sensor, just zip tied. Keep in mind that all of this is inside the fuel tank. All these things that are black taped together and that are very poorly twisted together, all of this is sitting in fuel. But in my mind, if you get a spark there and you've got maybe an eighth of a tank of fuel, so it has enough air inside, I think you could be sitting on a bomb there. So I'm going to try and get some power on there and see what happens. Again, I don't recommend anybody else doing this. This is just how we have to do things here in the Philippines with limited resources. Okay, well, the pump is working. I don't know if you hear that. Nothing spectacular. That looks like an original pump, although the wires have been, I don't know. There's more electrical black tape inside of here. So for now, we're just going to try to get this thing functional. So I cleaned up all those contacts for the plug that connects to the back side of this plate here. And then I resoldered the fuel level sender wires back onto the fuel sender, and it actually works. Pretty shocked about that. Blue on bottom, well, it's bottom, was bottom when I was working on it, but yeah. Fuel level sensor zip tied better back into position, and the wires are now soldered in place. So I'm just going to do a little test here, add some fuel down there and see if I can get this thing to run. Just turn the key on for a second and see if that pulls fuel. Yeah, okay. I should have had a pan under there. Got a homemade filter on there, and now I just want to get this thing back in there without breaking it or knocking any wires loose. Alright, I'm going in. Wish me luck. Twist and turn at the same time. Okay. Cut on those springs. let's see, this gasket was down here like that. I'm going to try to wiggle that gasket inside. The fuel pump's working anyway, and it looks like the fuel gauge might be working too. I think the other side probably has about that much fuel in it, so that could be right. Yeah, there's gonna be a pain in the you-know-what. That's for sure. And then turn this to the correct position. That'll probably help a bit, which is there. And then that means that this gasket's got to come up here. There we go. Okay, so I need 3 of these. These are the fuel line clips, but I do have these. So this is not going to be driving. This is just a test. Make sure the engine, to see if the engine will run now. Keys on. Alright, let's see if we have fuel pressure up here now. Oh boy, okay. Yeah, so that's a good healthy stream there now. Last time I did that, nothing came out. Well, it just sort of dribbled. Okay, let's try to start this beast. See if we can get some sound. Alright, let's give it a shot. Come on, baby. She runs. Any leaks there? Doesn't look like it. So I might do something crazy and zip tie the other ones too, and try to take it around the block at least. See how it runs. And my dash lights are off now. No more check engine light. Fuel gauge is actually going down a bit, so maybe it's correcting. That would be nice. If my work on that fuel gauge bears some fruit. Yeah, she sounds good. No weird noises. Purring like a kitten. Alright. Next up, we're going to take it for a little spin if we can. Now runs, so I'm just going to get things back together, and I'm going to take it for a test drive. This is not a drivable repair. This is just a very temporary fix, just to very slowly cruise up and down the road, getting the juices flowing with the brakes and power steering and all that stuff. It's not a drivable repair. That's a temporary fix until I get my official clips, fuel line clips from somewhere online. I don't know where I'm going to find them, but yeah. Alright, hasn't moved for 6 or 7 months. Let's see if she moves now.